Are you curious who Davida is? Ever wondered how this singer who seemed to appear out of nowhere signed with AOMG, one of Korea's heavy hitters when it comes to hip-hop and R&B? If so, let's check it out. In early April of 2020, the Korean hip-hop label AOMG ambiguously announced that a new artist was signing onto the label. This label was grounded by the Korean-American triple threat Jay Park, who's also its CEO. AOMG is a label with a very organic feel and artist-oriented nature, which stands out compared to many other music labels. On April 3rd, the label's official Instagram account posted a video. It was titled, "Who's the Next AOMG?", where fellow AOMG members talked about this upcoming recruit. They sprinkled small hints and details by sharing their thoughts on the artist without mentioning who. Around the world, fans immediately began speculating on who this could be. The major consensus was that it had to be solo artist Lee Hi due to reporting like this. A few other names got thrown in fan speculations like Hanbin, previous member of iKON, Jackie Y, and Moon, aka Moon Sujin. On April 6th, 3 days later, the account was updated with a part 2, this time dropping more hints, which would exclude many names from fan speculations. On the 7th of April, the label's official Instagram account posted a short teaser. The video sported an 80s retro-futuristic setting with a woman turned from the camera, dressed in all black, rocking braids, and some glistening high heels. As it seemed to be a female, some were now certain that it had to be Lee Hi. A small few actually guessed correctly that the one who would be joining AOMG would be Miss Davida. Finally, on April 9th, it was official. She debuted with a music video from which a teaser clip was taken from, Evita, which accompanied the release of her EP, Creme. The name Davida draws inspiration and meaning from two things. Firstly, Evita Perón, also known as Eva Perón, who was Argentina's former First Lady. When Chloe was learning about Eva's life, it inspired her to combine devil and Evita, thus creating Davida. The name signifies the duality of how both Eva Perón and Davida could be perceived, either being a devil or an angel depending on the eye of the beholder. Secondly, Salvatore Davida, a character from Cinema Paradiso, was also a source of inspiration. Chloe Cho, now known under the artist name Davida, was born and raised in South Korea until the age of 11. In 2009, she moved to Chicago where she would learn English. In 2013, she went back to Korea and participated in the third season of the show K-Pop Star, a talent show where the Big Three, the three largest music labels in Korea, host auditions to find the next big K-pop star. However, she didn't win, therefore neither got signed. Later on, she returned to Chicago and graduated high school. After reflecting on what she wanted to do next, she decided to make music. In 2014, her pursuit to become an artist brought her to the talent show Collaboration. On this show, she performed covers and actually ended up being a finalist. Despite her talents, she did not triumph as the winner of this show. Not letting these losses stop her, she started releasing music on SoundCloud. The earliest release I could find, Halfway Love, was from 2016. Her catalog consisted of both covers and original music. One day, Kirin, an artist and CEO of the music label 8 Ball Town Records, was introduced to Davida's music. He liked what he heard and the two linked up. In May of 2018, Wekis, one of 8 Ball Town's producer duos, released a track titled Sugar. This track featured both Davida and the AOMG rapper Ugly Duck. This was the beginning of many collaborations to come. On August 28th, just a few months later, AOMG released Sugar, Puff Daddy mix. This was a remix done by Puff Daddy, the alter ego of Kirin. Along with this track, it was accompanied by a music video starring Kirin, Davido, and Ugly Duck. For most people, this was their first time seeing Davido. Davido continued doing features on many songs by Korean artists while creating a little buzz for herself.
Don't you think it's funny when it's come, you better run, better run.
Pretend you don't love me. Already know that you love me. Could I guess so?
Just like kiss ya, if you want me to be by your side. Don't want to pretend like I'm really bad.
There's one notable feature which could be seen as an important milestone in her career. That is her feature on the track Noise from AOMG artist Woo Won-ji's project titled AM.
Just like buzz in the cash, all the girls in the time and the dollars.
In a tweet a few days after the release of Krem, she shared the significance of this moment. I was still making minimum wage working at a restaurant back when Noise dropped. I wrote my part during my shift on the back of this receipt paper. This was about a year and a half ago. A little bit after that, I got a call from Pumpkin at 3 AM Chicago time. He said Jay wanted to meet in Philly in 4 hours. They put me on a plane and the rest is history. The phone call she mentioned in a tweet about Jay wanting to meet must have been around September 2018. Jay was performing in Philadelphia at the time. This is that performance. The moment they met in Philly was actually captured through a photo of the two. However, this picture ended up getting deleted later on. Fast forward a few months and Jay had just released his Ask About Me EP. The project focused on a Western audience, so he went to the States on a promo run. During his visit, he also met up with Davido once again, as can be seen in this photo. Finally, on April 9th, she was officially signed to AOMG and debuted with her EP, Krem. Her joining AOMG to me looked like something that happened pretty organically. The vast majority of artists she had collabed on tracks with happened to be AOMG members. Getting comfortable with the AOMG family probably made the decision to join a no-brainer. Just a quick look at her body work thus far, a majority of it is in English. However, she has no issue singing in Korean as proven by her feature on Code Kunst Let You In.
사랑 얘기처럼 눈에 반한 소리 우리도 특별하다 믿었지 내가 순진한 건
The tone in her voice has this sort of mixture of many singers, a melting pot of sorts. It reminds me of Audrey Nuna, Say, Her, some vocalists from Dinah Jane, and at times just a tiny bit of Ariana Grande. As an artist, she's still in the early stages of carving out her own unique sound and style. There's a lot of potential here, but her distinct identity is not completely there yet. I see before me a caterpillar that within a couple of years will transform into a butterfly with its own identifiable pattern on its spread out wings. From what she's shown so far, I would say she seems most comfortable doing R&B and soul music in a pop format. However, beyond a quick description, I prefer to refrain from categorizing her. Mostly because artists generally feel limited when labeled, but more importantly because we have no idea what she has in store for the future. Krem is Davido's creme de la creme, meaning best of the best, as you probably knew already. She constantly modified the tracklist to present her debut project in a way that held her personal standard, essentially presenting us her best tracks. The result is Krem, which consists of 5 tracks with a runtime of 14 minutes altogether. This EP showcases the fact that she's a competent songwriter, able to write some soulful, emotional ballads. It is completely in English and all the tracks are written by her, telling both life stories of her own and that of others. A majority of the production was handled by her musical soulmate, Terim, but other notable names like Code Kunst show up as well. Movies introduces the project in a very gentle manner. In the track, Davido paints a picture of a criminal couple getting rushed by committing crimes together. The lyrics feel inspired by movies like Bonnie and Clyde. My initial thoughts were that for some years it could possibly be too calm as an opener. It doesn't demand attention the way Evita does. Simply put, it's not a bad track. I would have just put this track later on in the EP. Evita is something different compared to what I hear from others in the K-R&B lane. I love the 80s aesthetics in both the track and music video. Sonically, the nostalgic saxophone riffs, warm lush synth pads, thumping bass line results in a trip back to the 80s. With this recipe topped with Evita's current contemporary soul and R&B voice, makes for an interesting combination. The music video had that futuristic 80s look with the neon colors, and I loved how the gun she played around with looked a lot like the Needlers from the Halo franchise. The title is once again, just like Evita's name, an ode to the controversial Eva Perón. The instrumental was originally used by Terim in 2017. It's got the same title as the Evita's version, and I recommend giving that one a listen as well, as it has a different feel to it. This track was definitely one of the highlights of the EP. All About You is a simple yet beautiful piano love ballad. Originating from her own tales of love, her vocals effortlessly capture what she felt during these moments. 1974 Live is yet another ballad, but this time with a calm guitar backing playing a poppier R&B chord progression. Evita's voice is given a lot of space to be in the center of the track. As soon as I heard this track, I became curious. What was the significance of this year which would have her title the track as such? My questions were left unanswered until the EP had marinated a while, when she tweeted, 1974 Live is about Christine Schabuck. In case you're unfamiliar, Christine Schabuck was a television news reporter who tragically made history in 1974. She was the first person to commit suicide live on air. According to her mother, Christine's suicide would on paper be due to an unfulfilling personal life. All throughout her life, she had experienced unreciprocated love. With this information tying back to the track, it becomes a lot less ambiguous and reveals a more cohesive narrative. Show Me is the final track of the EP, featuring immaculate production from the talented Code Kunst. The sound is very moody, which fits her voice like a glove. This is my favorite performance on the entire EP, both lyrically and vocally. I love the vibrato she hits during this part right here. The lyrics present someone who's fed up dealing with men who talk the talk but don't walk the walk. Now she's looking for love with someone who's honest and real. With the project being a year old now, it has already gotten her nominated for both Rookie of the Year, along with Evita being nominated for Best R&B Soul Track in the 18th iteration of the Korean Music Awards. A majority of listeners seem to enjoy the project. Many seem to be in love with her voice, judging by the endless amounts of praise she has received, often described as painfully addicting, soothing, smooth, and so on. There's already quite a few covers of her songs posted online, as well as dancers doing choreographies to them. In my opinion, this further indicates the positive reception of the project. I also asked a friend who's a huge fan of Korean music, especially the hip-hop and R&B scene, to share her thoughts on the project. Here's what she said. This whole project is empowering, in particular the tracks Show Me and Evita. Evita, being a new artist, managed to impress me and many more listeners through this EP. As mentioned earlier, empowering lyrics with unique melodies and beats, especially the track Evita. The fact that 1974 Live and Evita was referring to two historically important women is something that I love. This is one of my favorite EPs of 2020, and Evita is now included in my list of favorite artists. From what I've seen, only a few have been vocal about not really being too fond of the project. Some were left a bit disappointed as they were expecting more hip-hop and R&B from an AOMG artist. The lack of danceable tracks was also a concern to some. Despite these criticisms, one thing was always mentioned. The girl has got some vocals and is obviously talented. After listening to this EP, I hear a lot of potential. Being an EP with just 5 tracks, it definitely avoids overstaying its welcome. It's brief enough to allow a listen through the entire project no matter what you're doing. My favorite tracks would have to be Show Me and Evita, but I found the whole project to be enjoyable. I do still stand by my opinion that movies would fit better later in the track list if you're chasing that mainstream air. I think the way Evita kicks you in the face, demanding attention, would have been a better fit as the opening track. In contrast to the other tracks, the energy level is unique, making the placement feel odd, as the rest of the tracks have a chill vibe. All in all, this project gave me a taste of the creme, but left me with a curious yearning for what this chef will whip up for dessert. The addition of more female artists to the AOMG roster is always great. The first and only female member for about 4 years was Hoodie.
So good, so good, so good, so good, so good.
This was the case up until late 2019, when she was then joined by Sogun, who had just won AOMG's audition program called Sign Here.
But I get so good at it.
Now, funnily enough, after Davida, Lehigh actually did officially sign to AOMG on July 22nd last year. Based on what I've heard during Davida's collaboration days, she has improved immensely. That is a very good sign, since she seems to be a perfectionist who is constantly evolving. Following an artist at the early stages of their career is something that always gets me thrilled to bits. With such a lovely debut, I cannot wait to see what the future has in store for Davida.